Okay, so imagine a place, right? They often call it the cradle of Indian civilization.
Mhm.
Think about that. A land where ancient wisdom wasn't just, sitting there, it was actively shaping thought across the globe. We're talking about Bihar in eastern India. Its capital is Patna. It borders Nepal, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand. And it's defined by these massive rivers, the Ganga, Kosi, Son, Gandak. They've basically fed its farms and its empires for, well, millennia. It's not just a spot on the map, it's this living thing shaped by water and time.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is just how deeply this area influenced the entire subcontinent. And honestly, maybe even the world beyond that. It's such a core piece of the Indian story and maybe bigger than many people realize today.
That connection is definitely key. So for this deep dive, our insights are coming from excerpts from Bihar, India's ancient soul and resurgent spirit. And our mission really is to kind of unpack Bihar's history, its culture, its spiritual weight, but also to get a handle on what's happening there now and look at its potential, where it might be headed. We want to pull out the really important bits, to show why Bihar isn't just about India's past, but maybe, just maybe, where it can go again. Okay, let's dig into this.
Right, and if you connect this to the bigger picture, Bihar's history is just some local story. It's genuinely global. I mean, this is the heartland of the Magadha Empire,
Yeah.
which then became the sort of backbone for the Maurya and Gupta empires later on. Just think about Ashoka the Great,
Yeah.
one of the most significant rulers anywhere, ever. He ruled from Pataliputra, which is basically modern Patna. This wasn't just some regional kingdom. It was like the central node, the nexus of these huge empires.
Yeah, and when I was reading about those universities, Nalanda, Vikramshile, it just hit me. The scale of learning back then in Bihar. For you listening, what's maybe one detail about those places that really shows their global importance, say, between the 5th and 12th centuries?
Oh, that's a great point. It really suggests that knowledge wasn't just kept local, right?
Yeah.
It was like a global currency.
Wow.
And Bihar was kind of its central bank back then. You had scholars coming from all over Asia, not just to learn, but to actually contribute. And then they took that knowledge back home with them, shaping, political thought, culture across huge areas. It was a really early, really powerful kind of knowledge economy.
And it wasn't only these massive institutions either. That's a really strong point about figures like Chanakya, right? Also known as Kautilya. Born there, wrote the Arthashastra, which is basically this incredibly detailed guide to running a state, economics, military strategy. How do those old strategies, the ones in the Arthashastra, how do they still sort of echo today in modern politics or economics?
Well, his ideas are still studied because they're just so deep. And they tap into these universal things, right? Governance, power, human nature. They don't really change that much. He mentored Chandragupta Maurya, the guy who founded the Maurya Empire. And his insights on like efficient administration, strategic alliances, they're remarkably relevant even now for leaders, for thinkers trying to navigate our complex world.
The intellectual contribution is just immense. But what really stands out, too, I think, is the spiritual legacy. Bihar feels like genuinely sacred ground for multiple faiths.
You're absolutely right. For Buddhists, well, that's where Buddha reached enlightenment, Bodh Gaya. For Jains, it's the birthplace of Mahavira, their 24th Tirthankara. And for Sikhs, Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Sikh guru, was born in Patna. So having these major world religions all kind of emerging from this one area,
Yeah.
that's pretty unique. It really highlights Bihar as this crucible for spiritual evolution.
It's just incredible. So much intellectual, spiritual wealth coming from one region. But, okay, moving beyond the ideas, how did those fertile lands, the rich soil, translate into the economic power needed for such a state? The source calls Bihar the granary of the East. What does that actually mean for, like, daily life now?
Yeah, Granary of the East really points to its core identity, which is primarily agrarian. Agriculture is huge. Major crops like rice, wheat, maize, sugarcane, lentils, they're the foundation of the economy. Industrial development, historically, maybe hasn't been as fast as elsewhere, but there's definitely a growing focus now on other areas, dairy, horticulture, fisheries, and we are seeing real improvements in things like IT parks and infrastructure, too.
Okay, so Bihar, even with this incredible ancient reputation for knowledge, is now trying to build a more diverse economy. But with those deep agricultural roots, how tough is that shift? And how does that really rich heritage, especially the folk culture, how does that fit in? Does it help or maybe even, resist these modern economic changes?
The transition definitely has its challenges, sure, but the strength of Bihar's folk culture, I'd say that's actually a massive asset, not something holding it back. It's got this incredibly rich cultural tapestry. You see it in the languages, Bhojpuri, Maithili, Magadhi. And their art forms, like the really intricate Madhubani painting or traditional dances like Jachatin,
Mm.
they're just so vibrant expressions of their heritage. And then you have Chas Puja. It's this deeply spiritual, huge celebration of the sun god, really uniquely linked to Bihar. All that shows this deep cultural resilience. And that can actually be a foundation for development, not just some dusty historical thing.
That's a powerful way to put it, culture reinforcing progress. But okay, despite that amazing past as a global knowledge hub, we know Bihar has faced difficulties, particularly in education in more recent times. What's the story there?
It's true, yeah. The modern education system in Bihar, it has faced some real hurdles, but it's really important to see that it is actively bouncing back. There's a lot of effort going in. And despite those challenges, look at the results. Bihar consistently produces some of India's top performers in really competitive national exams. We're talking civil services, UPSC, engineering,
Yeah.
JE, medical entrance, NEET, every single year. That says a lot, I think, about the individual drive and the intellectual capacity that's still very much there.
That really is a huge testament to the people's resilience, their intellect, and there are institutions helping drive this comeback, right? Modern universities kind of echoing that ancient strength.
Oh, absolutely. Places like IIT Patna, NIT Patna, and significantly, the revived Nalanda University, they're actively working to reshape the future, trying to bring back some of that ancient educational power, but in a modern context, which, raises a really interesting question for us. How does a region square such a glorious past with present-day challenges, and not just survive, but actually truly thrive again?
And that brings us right to those challenges. The source mentions poverty, unemployment, infrastructure gaps, and then there's the Kosi River, famously called the Sorrow of Bihar. I mean, that name alone paints such a stark image. Can you help us understand the human side of that sorrow? What does it really mean for the families living along that river?
Yes, the Kosi. It's not just about flooding. It actually changes its course. It deposits huge amounts of silt. It causes widespread devastation. It makes farming incredibly precarious, a constant battle, and it's a massive hurdle for building stable infrastructure. So this ongoing struggle with natural disasters year after year, it means that migration for work remains really high. That's a clear sign of the economic difficulties people face. This constant struggle it's a really profound part of Bihar's reality and its challenges.
Right. But the story isn't just about the struggles, is it? There seems to be significant progress happening, too, a real feeling of resurgence.
Indeed. Absolutely. Recent governance, particularly under Nitish Kumar, has really pushed for substantial infrastructure improvements. Things like electrification, much better roads. There's been a clear focus on improving law and order, too, and promoting education, especially for girls, plus enhancing rural connectivity. These are tangible changes. Plus, you're seeing tourism grow in those historically vital spots, Bodh Gaya, Rajgir, Vaishali, Pawpuri, which is great for the local economy and for keeping that heritage alive.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what does this mean for Bihar's place in the bigger Indian story, and maybe even globally? How do we kind of sum up this incredible journey for you, the listener?
Well, I think this deep dive into Bihar really shows us that it's not just about India's origins, where it came from, but potentially about where India can go again. It's a land of, ancient wisdom, incredible intellectual power, and this really unbreakable spirit. It's a place that, despite facing huge challenges, is actively, consciously working towards a comeback, demonstrating this remarkable ability to, be reborn.
What an incredible journey that was through Bihar. We've traced its huge influence, right? Cradle of civilization, global intellectual hub. And what really stays with me is how it's facing its modern challenges with such, clear purpose towards resurgence, using those deep roots to fuel future growth.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, the lasting picture of Bihar is that duality. It's the granary of the East, physically feeding its people, but it's also the soul of ancient wisdom still inspiring people. It's kind of a testament, isn't it, to how deep roots can give you the strength for future growth, even when things are really tough.
Yeah, this deep dive into Bihar really shows us that true strength isn't only about what's shiny and new, it's also in that spirit that just keeps going across thousands of years. And it leaves you with a question, doesn't it? How do the echoes of these ancient civilizations keep shaping our modern world right now? And what can a place like Bihar teach all of us about enduring change and about rebirth?